Hey guys, Project Zodiac here. I'm back in another video, and as you can see, it's another unboxing video, and it's a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray unboxing. It's a movie unboxing, and it's of a very old movie and a very cool, interesting movie that I'm very excited to talk about and to own as well. It's the original Godzilla movie. Now, I also do apologize if I'll end up saying Godzilla sometimes instead of Godzilla. It's just sometimes how I say the name just comes out a little bit differently. But yeah, I'm very excited for this because for a couple of reasons. So this is a Criterion release. We'll talk about that later on. After I do the unboxing, I'm going to go into a little bit of a rant or more of a ramble on my thoughts on the movie, the series, and all of that. So good things though. So we'll get back to that, but it is a Criterion release. So that's something that's really interesting because Criterion and Arrow Video, I believe is their name, they make good conversions of movies for 4K, which is really, really nice. But again, we'll get back to that. And also just because this is the very first original Godzilla movie, which came out in 1954, I believe. Yeah. So about 9 years after World War II. And this is kind of like a metaphor for using atomic weapons. And it's very, very impressive, this movie. And again, I'll talk about that towards the end. But yeah, so it's a special unboxing because it's a Criterion collection. And because it's the original Godzilla movie, which is in black and white. So it's the very first one in black and white. And the last reason as well as for why it's a really special unboxing is also just because it's a really, really cool box. And I love little things like this. It shows care in the product. So we'll go over everything in a little bit. Let's just go straight into the unboxing because again, I will have a lot to say. So we've got the Criterion logo over here, the C, Godzilla's name, the director name, then we've got Godzilla here, and then 4K Ultra HD plus Blu-ray Combo Edition. The Criterion Collection, 1954. It's pretty cool that it had the year name there. Oh, sorry, the year of release. Here's the side. So it's pretty good overall. And then here's the back. So you guys can read the back. I'll pause it here for you. So here's the first part. And it's very interesting because of how in-depth this is. And then here's all the bonus features. So this is a movie where you do want to keep both the 4K disc and the Blu-ray disc. And then here we have the information. And yeah. And then here's some information on the Criterion collection as well. I don't think I have a Criterion movie. I know I have an Arrow Video movie, the original David Lynch Dune, which sadly David Lynch just died, so rest in peace for him. And I actually prefer his version of Dune over the new ones. And then here's the side as well for this. But that one isn't from Criterion. That, like I said, that one's from Arrow Video. So yeah, I think this is probably the first Criterion one. And there is actually a fourth reason why this is a special unboxing, but I'll get to that in a minute. Alright, so it's very interesting the way that the box is because it's almost like it's an actual Japanese style book in a way, because in Japan books aren't read left to right, they're read right to left. So the way that this comes out, you'd expect it to be coming out from here, but it's on this side, so that's pretty cool. I like that. And here's the artwork a lot better. All right, let's just slide this out. And that's actually a really cool picture of Godzilla's teeth and mouth inside of the water, and then just bubbles. And then just black and white again, and his hand. And oh, there's a bunch of stuff here. And then here's that image opened out. We'll talk about this in a little bit. I'll give my overall thoughts on the packaging in a minute. I just want to see if there's anything in here that shouldn't be shown. Okay, there isn't. All right, so we have this here, and then as you can see, there's more detail here. Then we've got a little pamphlet over here. So I'm very excited again, as this is a black and white movie. And a lot of 4K movies in black and white, or even from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, before they started going to digital, because they used film, and when done right, like they, when they're cleaning up the actual film, it looks so good. Like the image looks so good, even a little bit better than some modern digital movies. So that's why owning an older movie in 4K is probably a little bit better than even owning a more modern movie in 4K. Not always. There are some 4K movies released now that are like modern movies that are released in 4K that is just amazing as well and looks even better than some of the film. So it's kind of a mixture of both. What I'm trying to get at is, depending how it's filmed in modern times, the conversion is just going to look the same. It's not going to really be as impressive. In other words, it's a digital format. It's just less compressed, so you get to see more of the details, versus cleaning up a film, which is you get to see a lot more details, a lot more depth to certain things. It has a little bit more of a charm with it, and a little bit more of a warmth. But yeah, when done right, when converting it into a 4K, it works so well, both film and digital. It's just that with film, people put a little bit more care into these older movies when converting it into 4K, from what I've noticed, compared to more modern ones, because even if they don't keep it in 4K, more modern ones, it's still going to look really good, just given the types of cameras that are used for films now. So again, that's why I'm saying that older movies tend to look a little bit better, but it doesn't mean that newer movies doesn't when it's in 4K discs, because it all comes down to how it is when they are converting it into the home release. Because again, some modern movies release looks so good in 4K on home release. So yeah, it's important to get both. It's just more care gets put into the older ones than the more modern ones. But again, can work either way. So that's why I was excited for this. So I like that this is also in black and white. Let's just take a flip through here. And I love that this is still in Japanese. I believe it is saying Gojira, which is Godzilla's name in Japanese. So we've got the cast. That's pretty cool. Oh, okay. So yeah, again, this is very, very influential from the atomic bombs that was dropped. So I'm gonna leave this over here so that you can all read this. This is really interesting to read. I didn't even realize that this came with a little bit of a poem and backstory, or poetry as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I just want you guys to be able to read this as well. So just please pause the video, as there's a lot of context to it. Again, this movie is, and it looks like it's actually not just poetry, but it's actually just talking about how the movie was made and licensing for it as well. This movie really is kind of like a recovery for the Japanese from the atomic bombs. It's not even that it's really political, but it's kind of like a political statement from the feelings that the people suffered. So it's not even political in the government sense. So it is very, very interesting for sure. And then this here talks a little bit more about the masters that they use, and you can pause that to read it. And yeah, considering that this is a movie from the 1950s, the special effects is all practical, which is also nice in a 4K format to be able to actually see how all of that worked. So that's really cool. I'm really excited for it. There's something over here that I've seen, which is really, really cool. But alright, we got here Godzilla. And it looks like the disc is just the hand, right? Under the water. And then over here it looks like it's his hand as well. And then this is the Blu-ray. So yeah, not bad. Actually, let me just keep this here to the side because there's actually something really cool. So if you just open this up, yeah, that is really, really, really cool. It's like a little pop-up book. So we got Godzilla there with all of that fire around him. Now, right now it's January 2025, and this released in October of 2024. And actually, hold on, if we open this up, you can kind of see the image a little bit better. So this came out in October 2024. Now, what's really cool about this, and another reason why it's so special, is because I really wanted to get this Godzilla movie in 4K. However, it wasn't released in the US. And then many months ago, I saw that they did have a release of a 4K release in Japan. So I hoped that they would release it because this is sadly only in Japanese. They don't include a dub for it. So yeah, in Japanese with English subtitles. So sadly, there is no dub release here, and that's actually one of my complaints. I don't know why they didn't include a dub release here. Again, I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but so I kept waiting and hoping that they would release it eventually here in the West, and thankfully they did. They actually released this in October. So it took them 1 year to release this because it was released in October 2023 in Japan, the 4K release, and then they brought it over to the West just a few months ago. And I only found out about this literally like a week and a half ago, literally in 2025. I kind of was thinking like, oh, let me see if there's any news about a Godzilla 4K release coming to the West, because I already knew many months ago about the Japanese release. And then I saw that it was released. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. So that's why it's so special, is because this is kind of a wish come true, because I wanted the West to get it so I could watch in a 4K format with the English subtitles. Now, so yeah, that's very, very special. And another reason too is because this also includes, where is it? It includes the US original version of this. So it's really cool because there's an alternate version of this movie where they shot some scenes and cut it up into the original Godzilla movie. And released that into the West originally. And I think that was in 1956. So yeah, you can see it over here. And it was called Godzilla King of the Monsters. So they inserted a American character in here and had him be in Japan and experiencing all of that. Maybe I've seen that version before when I was really little. I don't really remember. I know we had a VHS tape that had like 3 Godzilla movies in it, and I think maybe that one was the 1980s one. I forgot, but yeah, maybe that one was the US version of the 1984 Godzilla movie, I think. But yeah, either way, I'm very, very excited to see this one because I don't know if I've seen the Americanized version. You can see it over here as well, Americanized. So it will be interesting to see one version, like the original, compared to the alternate version, which was made for a American audience. Yeah, so I'm excited for that. Sadly, that version, the King of the Monsters version, is only on your Blu-ray disc, not the 4K disc. And a lot of these special features are also just on the Blu-ray disc, from what I understand, which is a bit upsetting. And then, so yeah, my biggest complaints with this release is that the King of the Monsters US version is not in the 4K disc as well. I think some of the special features won't be on the 4K disc either. But also because there is no dubbed version of the original Japanese version in this release. I do know that there is a dubbed version somewhere, I think, but I wish that they would have included it as well. I'm pretty sure that the King of the Monsters version is dubbed, especially since there is an American in the movie as well, and it was released in the US. But I'm not too sure about that. Again, I haven't really seen that this movie before. So either way, I do wish that there was a dub of the original one. Now, my other complaint is going back to what I had mentioned in regards to Criterion, is they're not the ones that actually did this remaster. Or not even remaster, I shouldn't say like that, but this conversion of it. The ones that did the conversion of it was Toho themselves. And Toho is the, film studio in Japan that releases many, many movies. And they're the ones who released the original Godzilla movie. And before I bought this, I was curious to see how the depth and the color saturation would work. I know it's a black and white movie. There wouldn't technically be saturation, but trust me, there's saturation even in black and white. And that comes down to like how dark and bright certain things are. And I actually saw a video on YouTube comparing like 4 versions of it. I think it was like the Blu-ray original Criterion one from a few years ago, not the 4K one. And then the Toho Blu-ray release. And then there was another one as well. I forgot which other version that was. And then the Toho 4K release. And then this one is very, very good. I think it's almost as good as the Blu-ray release in terms of contrast with the colors and saturation. Yeah, so sorry, I said saturation earlier. That is still true, but it's also the contrast as well. So both of those, I think it was a little bit better and a little bit more serious in tone with the original Criterion Blu-ray release. Actually, yeah, so it was the Criterion Blu-ray from a few years ago. I think there was a Toho Blu-ray one. And then, yeah, I keep forgetting which is the third one. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it seems like the color contrast and saturation in terms of the black and whites and the depths is very close to that original Criterion one, which looked really, really good. Better than the Toho Blu-ray one. Again, this is from a few years ago, and they were comparing those releases with this release, because this release is the exact same one as the 4K Toho release that they released in October 2023, which is different than the Blu-ray Toho and Criterion ones from a few years ago. So the Blu-ray Criterion and the Blu-ray Toho from a few years ago, those two are two separate conversions altogether as well. That Toho one looked super washed out, and the Criterion one looked really, really cool. But yeah, this is the 4K conversion, and it's the same for both Criterion and Toho's release of it. I don't know about the actual Blu-ray disc itself though, which version that would be. But yeah, so that's my other little complaint, is that even though this looks fantastic from what I've seen, I do wish that it had a little bit more of saturation and contrast with the blacks and whites, but it looks really, really good. Um, but yeah, I just think given the tone of the movie, the original Criterion one really fits it so good. But again, from what I saw of this, it still looks fantastic, and of course, it's also going to be looking a little bit better. From some reviews I saw from this release, a couple people say that yeah, it looks better than the Criterion one from a few years ago, but only very slightly. Not in terms of the color mixing. I just mean like in terms of image quality itself. But still, I'm very excited for it because it is a black and white movie. It's an old movie. They cleaned it up with the original film. They enhanced it, put it in 4K, and just to see the special effects and everything, it's so good. But yeah, those are my main complaints. I do have a more minor one, which is the actual packaging. Um, so when I first saw that this was the packaging, I'm like, why didn't they just go with one that mm, goes more in line with what Toho released for the 4K release? Because the movie is in black and white. It would have been really cool to just have a picture of Godzilla here in black and white. And, this is all just fire. And it's a beautiful image. But this, I think, would have been more impactful if it was in a black and white image. It would be a little bit hard to tell the details, but I think you can make it work depending on how you adjust the coloring. Um, but actually holding it right now, it works so well. Like this is so cool. It's so beautiful. I don't think I'm gonna keep the box, um, even though it has that cool little pop-up feature. I don't think I'm gonna keep the box though, because normally I don't. But for right now, I'll hold on to it for a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's just a very, very cool image. So that complaint is kind of gone away. So I don't mind this as much anymore. This kind of makes me think of like Akira or something like another anime kind of. So it's really cool overall. But the complaint I do have that does stay is why did they have him underwater here? And you can barely see him. So I think they could have done something a little bit different. It's still cool though. Um, I like the idea with it. I think they could have done something a little bit different with the actual image to show him off a little bit more. This pop-up thing though, I love it. It's so cool. It's really, really cool. And then the last actual complaint that I have is I wish that the discs at least were a little bit different because it just doesn't really fit Godzilla that much. And I don't know why the Criterion movies all have this giant C on the disc. At least it's somewhat hidden and transparent, but like you can really tell it's there still. And I don't know, I think it takes away from the disc art. Like, yeah, we get it. It's a Criterion collection. You could just put, like over here, you could just put a C. It doesn't need to take up the whole disc art space. But yeah, that's just a more of a nitpick thing. It just really stands out. But it's not bad. So overall though, I'm so excited that this is here. Now, I'm not the biggest Godzilla fan, but I really enjoyed the movies, and this one, I hadn't seen it before until maybe like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago at the most, like the very original one, which is this one. And I was so amazed with it. It's kind of like this year, for example, a few months ago for Halloween, I watched all of the Universal Classics monster movies, like those black and white ones, from like the 30s, 50s, because I think they went a long time in between it. But yeah, all from like forever ago, those movies, about 30 of them. So I watched all of those in October, and a lot of them really holds up really well. And honestly, some of them are a little bit better than some movies we're getting even today, So for someone who has no like nostalgia for those movies, seeing them and how they hold up even now is really impressive. And that's exactly how this movie is as well, because this movie holds up so good, and it really makes you feel kind of the weight that the Japanese felt, following after the attacks.